to notify all you guys are being taped now. Anyways, the last number of weeks, we've seemed to always circle back to this idea of peace of mind, or peace of mind. And so I wanted to read a little thing on peace of mind that I was reading today. This is from a book that was referred, the Jesus, My Autobiography book refers to this book, Making Love to God. Okay. So this particular paragraph is called The Rising of Peace. What will happen as this process becomes second nature to you is peace will rise. And when they're talking about this process, we're talking about the process that we're teaching in Out of the Matrix, which is very similar to what they talk about in this book, taking responsibility, owning your responsibility for your feelings and all those kind of things, doing the Out of the Matrix process. So as it becomes second nature to you, as you put down your weapons and stop defending yourself, you will realize that most of the anxiety and fear you were experiencing was your own creation. You were donning your armor and had your spear in hand all the time. And when you were prepared for war, you are not relaxed, not in the least. As you begin to think of peace, look for peace and value peace above all else, which is really what I know I work towards, is trying to value peace above all else. In other words, is this discussion, is this disagreement, is the next step that I'm going to go through with my mind and my thinking going to bring me peace? So I'll read that again. As you begin to think of peace, look for peace, and value peace above all else, it will indeed manifest in your life, and you will begin to see a different world. Your body will begin to relax, and if you are sick or your body is struggling, it will be given some divine peace in which it can heal. This is the path you will follow. The tiredness of the battle is wearing you out, and it is wearing out your dear planet. What you do not know, and what we are so happy to tell you, is that as you transform your internal world and strive for peace in thought, word, and deed, it will become manifest in your outside world, not as some airy-fairy wish-making idea, but in tangible, real results. You are connected in an inextricable way to your environment and to your world. It is not as you have been told. You are powerful beyond measure. Remember, we say you're limitless. You are powerful beyond measure, and you are God's, able to transform all that you see and all that you experience inside and out. So I had read that today, and I thought of that with respect to our comments frequently the last couple of weeks about peace of mind, and more encouragement to focus on peace of mind over all else. So that, and then there was another paragraph too. And this is related. It's related to what we're going to talk about tonight. Every moment is another moment of miscreation or focused attention on what you want to create. It is your choice. We are merely holding the light in the darkness so you can see the way, but you are free to listen or not. We ask you one more time to start disciplining your mind and tending to your focus. We will help you, and we will not regret it, we promise. And you will not regret it, we promise you. So that idea of disciplining your mind is a big deal in Course in Miracles teaching and Out of the Matrix teaching. So I'm going to share my screen here. So that said, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that peace of mind piece, how that's been going for people. I know today I experienced some stuff with one of my students making some outrageous claims, and I was aware that I was not moved to argue with him, or I was just like, okay, I mean, if that's what you want to believe, that's fine, and there's no need for me to dissuade you from believing that, and if that's where you want to go and that's where you want to be, because it would have just ended up in an argument. And I was aware that that's a difference in me from years ago, when I would have felt the need to try and correct him and get him to see the light and understand things in a way that makes sense to me. So that's one of those ways that you can choose pieces. I don't feel the need to correct somebody or make them see the light or get them to see the things the way I see them. Now, that said, there are people who are receptive and who want to hear things differently, and that's a different case. If someone's asking a question and they're asking for guidance, that's different than strictly wanting to change someone's mind for the sake of changing their mind. And that's a delicate dance. This discernment of whether someone's ready to hear something or not. And sometimes you go for it anyways, and you find out, well, that didn't work and they weren't ready to hear that. And that's fine, nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, today I was aware of that was a choice for peace of mind for me. So I don't know if that strikes anybody. Any comments about that before we go into the slides here?
Well, that's what I've been trying to work on the last for quite a while now, because I haven't had any peace of mind internally and externally, and I'm feeling like I'm lost in my own world.
Well, keep in mind, peace of
And,
mind.
I have.
Huh? Peace of mind is only an internal thing. It's not an external thing.
Yeah, well, when you have, I've had an infection going on, and I didn't realize the extent of it until it went to my lip. And the evidence was there because the food that I was eating was trying to cover. However, it really made me move because as far as it hurt, I had a infection on my lip, and my whole lip was inflamed. So I did, I needed to do was go to doctors and get an antibiotic. And see, I'm the type, I believe in the medical way, but I believe in the holistic way. So this is where I'm very, I'm caught in between here. But I've been trying to keep a peace of mind because I've had some major decisions, a lot of major decisions to do. And it's like I'm in that situation where I'm afraid to make any decision because I don't want to make the wrong decision and cause me more pain.
I can relate.
So I'm trying to find some sense in my world, help me keep me calm, because I understand I put myself in this situation, but when I have things that are very valuable to me and I have to decide, especially root stuff, if I'm not being able to take care of myself, I get very out of peace of mind. And I want to be able, and I haven't been able to take care of myself monetarily by myself for many years. And it's taken a toll on me mentally and emotionally. And I try to listen for my guidance. And I think I'm hearing correctly, but then I question it because I've been living a life of I don't exist, a belief of I don't exist, and I'm not worthy and capable of taking care of myself, which is not true. I've seen myself take care of myself, but I'm looking at past. So now I'm trying to move forward and keep a peace of mind, and trying to make sense of things without losing my mind.
Yeah, so, one of the things we've talked about the last number of weeks is, again, we put that continuum up there. And so if you have a not worthy belief and it's a high number, 7, 8, 9, 10, then it's very hard to get that connection with your inner guide. And then you think you're getting guidance and it doesn't work out. And so it wasn't inner guidance because it created more problems for me. And so you work on reducing this number by being conscious of it. So that process we talked about is, subconscious, conscious process. So I'm aware that I have a not good enough or a not worthy belief, and I become conscious of when I'm experiencing that. So when do I feel like I'm not worthy, and how am I experiencing that? And in the moment, so let's just say, I always use the example, I'm in a discussion with my mom and she pushes my not worthy button. And then I have to say to myself, this isn't about what's happening around me. This is about my not worthy belief. So I've got my not worthy goggles on. I'm wearing my not worthy goggles. In other words, I'm seeing things in a way that connects with my not worthy belief. And I'm not necessarily seeing things the way they are. In fact, I probably am not. And that's why we work to lower that number. And so you have to start to question sort of what you're seeing and the way you're seeing things and the way you're even understanding things. if I have this not worthy belief, and those are the goggles through which the visors through which I'm seeing the world, then I have to start to question the way I'm seeing things and what I'm seeing. And that becomes a conscious process rather than a subconscious process. Most people are running around with the goggles on and they don't realize it, and it's happening subconsciously. If you're aware of the fact that I've got this, then you can say to yourself, let's say you go to the store and you're feeling uncomfortable about your appearance because maybe you didn't shower that day. And so you're sort of living up to this not worthy piece by not taking care of yourself physically. And you're worried about what people are thinking of you. So get conscious of that process. The fact that I didn't shower today and chose to go out in public, and not that there's anything wrong with not showering and going out in public, but for me, when I have my not worthy belief, I'm using that experience to beat myself up and feel worse about myself. And so I just got to be consciously aware of that process and know that. So that's the process you go through, is again, trying to make it more conscious for yourself, know when it's going on, and then you release it. Okay. And so the releasing process probably isn't going to happen in the grocery store, but the releasing process is also connecting with the emotion related to this. So we often ask, well, you know what, so this is valuable. So let's go into my slides, because I think this will speak to some of what we're talking about. So the reading tonight that I had talked about disciplining your mind, and that's really what Out of the Matrix is. It's a process. Like, you can't see my board anymore, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about being more aware of the way we think and what we're thinking about, and really specifically what we think of ourselves and how we project that out. And so you got to become aware of that by knowing that you're doing it. But discipline of your mind also is sort of what I did with my student today, not choosing to engage with him when he was making some outrageous claims about some stuff. I just let him have that. I had that experience when my kids were young. They would tell me the sky is clear and it's totally cloudy. And I was like, if that's the way you want to see it, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about it. Okay. So the discipline of your mind is just being more careful about what you think. It's also a process of self-discovery. As that drawing showed, most people are running around in their lives and not aware that they have these false beliefs that are driving their lives and creating their lives, and that they're wearing glasses, a visor, that they're seeing their belief through, seeing the world through that belief all the time. So the self-discovery process in the initial part of this is discovering how I use false beliefs to create my world, the Tetris effect of the mind. Remember, the Tetris effect of the mind is, if I have a not worthy belief at the base of my mind and my understanding of myself, then I'm going to see the world and see things that come into my life through that lens of not worthy. That's the first part of self-discovery. As we start to let go of the false belief, the other part of self-discovery is discovering your limitless reality. So I realized that I've got I'm not worthy belief. And as I discover more about that and start to release it, I get in greater touch with my limitless reality. All right. So it's a new view of others, yourself, and therefore the world. Because we're certainly talking a lot about how we see ourselves. And the more peacefully you can see yourself, the more peacefully you're going to see others, and the more peacefully you'll see the world. See, we want to say that the world needs to be more peaceful, then I'll see it, then I'll see it as more peaceful. But internal peace creates external peace, especially if what we're saying is true, which is I've got goggles on that affect everything that I see outside of me. So if I'm filled with turmoil and angst, I'm going to see a world filled with turmoil and angst. Does that make sense to everybody? And
Yeah.
I'm sure we can get into more about what the matrix is, but we're going to talk about these topics a little bit more. I'm going to skip this video because YouTube doesn't like it when I play the videos. It wants me to get those out of there. The disciplined mind. So what are we talking about? We're talking about choosing your thoughts. I talked about that. Not allowing your thoughts to control you. And most people, again, in this world, they get a thought introduced into their mind and they run with it. And that's what we're trying not to do. In other words, maybe I'm listening to the radio and I hear a piece of news, and for the next hour, I'm upset because I allowed myself to perseverate on whatever that news was. Hang on a second, my dog is chewing on something. So again, making choices about how I think and what I'm thinking about and what I'm viewing, okay? And that's one of the reasons I find it valuable to read spiritual stuff or stuff that is related to Out of the Matrix, because that gets me thinking like that, rather than watching the news, listening to the news on the radio, looking stuff up on the internet. It brings me into a state of a lower vibrational state, and connects me with my false beliefs. That's my experience anyways. So I like to read stuff that's more spiritually based. Skip this video. We are trying to free people's minds though. So understanding that every upset you have can be resolved within you. Sort of what I was saying to Lisa when she said that, you know, she's trying to have internal peace and external peace. It's all about internal peace of mind. We'll keep going. People are a mirror. What I see in them are the thoughts I have about myself. We don't talk a lot about that in Out of the Matrix. This idea that, it certainly comes up sometimes, but not every weekend. But again, if I've got goggles on that say not worthy, then that's what I'm going to see in other people. I'm projecting that out from my mind, and that's why I want to reduce the number of my false belief so that I see less of that around me. Your thinking attracts things. We certainly get into the law of attraction and talk about, again, when I'm living a not worthy life, or believing that I'm not worthy, and the stronger that belief is in my mind, the more not worthy experiences I'm going to attract into my life. I like to say, there's a story about just the angry guy. What happens to the angry guy? Angry things happen to the angry guy all the time. Sad things happen to the sad guy all the time. And I certainly witnessed that with people that I observe and their take on the world and what happens around them. And feel free to interject at any point, you guys, if you want to comment. Go to the next slide.
Well, you know, since you're talking about angry guy, and do this thing where, you know, blank people.
Mm-hmm.
I came across another one.
Okay.
Transformed people.
Oh, that's a good one, Bruce. Yeah, where'd you come across that?
I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, transform people. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's certainly what, you know, for all of us who look to kind of guru-ish type people, spiritual people, teachers, you know, the hope is that when I talk to my kids or any friends or anybody about going to a therapist, I always say you got to interview the therapist first. And my first hope for a therapist is that they've done work on themselves. So
Absolutely.
I feel like if they're much better able to help me if they've learned to help themselves first.
That's always a recommendation of mine. I have nothing against therapists, but you got to find one that's done their own work.
Yep, makes a tremendous difference.
And, you know, just like all of those, they're strictly speaking not accurate, but they still work.
What's that?
Well, transformed people don't transform people. People
Right.
transform themselves. And it's like that with all of those.
Angry people.
But they're still very useful.
Yes. Yeah. Those people tend to be catalysts, so we can do it. Yeah. But again, you know, you're limited only by your thoughts about yourself. So again, if I've got somebody who's trying to help me transform, and I'm so caught up in how angry I am about everything, and I can't see past that, that transformation isn't going to occur. So, you know, Bruce is right in the sense that there's got to be an opening there, right? And same thing with anger. If somebody's, you know, I got angry students who are there, and you know, there are moments certainly where I get angry, but for the most part, it's pretty limited. And I get it's not because, you know, because of my students that I'm choosing not to. It's, you know, I'm making the choice myself. So they can be a catalyst to make somebody angry, but they don't always work. It doesn't always work that way.
Right, because they're not doing it.
Yeah.
They're fostering it.
Yeah.
They're not doing it.
Yep, absolutely. So you're limited by your thoughts. You're responsible for your thoughts. Therefore, you are unlimited. And again, this is something that we talk about on Friday nights. And I don't know if we gloss over it, but we don't get into it in great detail. But one of the things we're teaching people is that you limit yourself with these false beliefs. And in the weekend, what we're trying to do is help you discover those limits and remove the limits. And if you keep removing the limits and removing the limits and removing the limits, then you get to limitless. So that's the idea behind what we're doing in Out of the Matrix. And everyone is unlimited. Some extra clicks there. So then, the topic for tonight was mentoring. So we're helping someone shift from being outer directed to being inner directed. It's just one of the aspects of what we do when we're mentoring folks in the weekend. In other words, someone is blaming someone else for their upset and their distraught life and their life falling apart. And through the process of mentoring them in the weekend, what you're helping them discover is, again, that they created that experience for themselves. What's going on internally for them is being reflected outside of them. So you're helping them shift in numerous ways, whether it's the responsibility ladder, behavior cycles, true colors, whatever it is, we're helping them discover the idea that it's going on inside of you and it's being reflected outside of you. The process of guiding someone through an upset to their power. So in other words, we define your power as peace, love, and joy. And if you have peace, love, joy, self-worth, and there's a fifth one I can't think of it. Peace, love, joy, self-worth. Anyways, there's a fifth one I can't think of it. But that's someone's power, and you can't get to your power if you're outer directed. In other words, if peace, love, and joy exists inside of me and I'm focused outside of me all the time, I can't get there. So we're trying to guide people through their upset back to their power, which is inside of them. And the power really is about choice. That's where your power is. Your power is recognizing I have a choice about how I perceive this and how I choose to experience this event or person or thing. That's where your power lies. Aside from that strict definition of peace, love, and joy, your power lies in your ability to choose your perception of any person, place, or thing. That's where your power lies.
Chris, I have a question about that with power, because I understand the powers within me, but I tend to give my power away still at times.
Right.
And then it brings it out, it brings me down internally. I feel very powerless.
Right.
Especially with certain circumstances in my life. And I'm dealing with this, still with this support after all these years. I just found out today yesterday when I was trying to get a loan so I could fix my truck, that they took the arrears and put it on my whatchamacallit report, the credit report.
Oh.
And I wasn't aware of this. And I went, what is this thing? I wasn't aware of this. So I was upset at first because I was like, oh, here it goes again. Here they're trying to stop me from moving forward. And I have this very dark, angry, sad, desperation belief around after I've been trying to deal with this many years of trying to get it corrected and in fairness. And
yeah, so
I don't know how. I'm trying to just part of me was trying to stomach it today, but my finances have been out of whack for quite some time, and I've been trying to take responsibility of them. So I have a level of anger. I do. I really am angry for what I've done to myself but I'm trying to take responsibility in my own life and move forward.
Yeah, so here's what I would suggest, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but when you're in a situation like that and you've created some situation that looks unfair on the surface, and maybe you've been taken advantage of, who knows, whatever the situation is, what you need to say to yourself is zero down to what belief that is, and let's just say it's not worthy. You say to yourself, oh, so okay, this is more of my experience of my not worthiness. That's what's happening here, and then you say to yourself, but I'm not going to judge myself for that. In other words, I'm going to say that it is my not worthy belief that's creating these experiences in my life, and I get that, but I'm not going to beat myself up for that. I'm going to instead get that someone who feels not worthy about themselves at whatever level is calling for love. Remember, we talked a couple of weeks ago about projecting onto ourselves. So when you're having those experiences repeatedly, then what you're doing is you're calling for love. And the most loving thing you can do to yourself is not judge yourself for the fact that you created this. So this is all back to, my board with my snowman. And subconsciously, I've got the not worthy belief that's creating these experiences in my life. And now I'm going to consciously recognize that's what's creating this in my life. And I'm going to acknowledge that and acknowledge that that is a call for love. And I'm going to love myself rather than judge myself. And loving myself is acknowledging, hey, I'm a limitless being. I am so powerful that this not worthy belief of mine is creating these experiences for me. That's really acknowledging my power and who I am as a powerful, limitless being. Okay. And it's also not judging, it's extending love to myself by acknowledging those things about myself. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I can understand that I have been living in the life of the belief of I'm not supported. I understand that.
Okay.
And this is where I've been living ever since I abandoned myself after I was told that I was setting myself up for a fall. And I felt like I lost myself again. So that's where I have been living in this limbo of my own life of I'm not supported and I'm not able to take care of myself and protect myself or keep myself safe.
Yeah. So again,
Um,
my piece about that for you is to acknowledge that you're creating that experience for yourself. You're a limitless, all powerful being. You're creating that experience. And for the moment, that's a call for love. Certainly with my health issues, one of the things I recognize in my meditations, I get that that's a call for love in my world, in my sphere of influence. That dis-ease that's showing up in my life is a call for love. And so in my meditations, I extend love to myself. And so, whether you do it in meditation or consciously, anytime you're feeling that way, you need to extend love to yourself. And then, the question comes up, well, what does that look like? I mean, the first most obvious thing is not judging yourself for the fact that you created this, but you first got to acknowledge you created this with the false belief that you're carrying around. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yes.
I can't offer that. That's the solution I have. I can't offer you like, ABC, here you do plug this in and all of a sudden it's over. And it's because it's a long-term process of catching yourself with these beliefs, living up to these beliefs and making a different choice. But one of the ways you can do that is by extending love to yourself after acknowledging that you created it for yourself.
Lisa,
Yes.
where have you been unfair to someone else?
Growing up. Well, my neighbor. I'm definitely unfair with my neighbor. Because I don't want neighbors, and that's the way I've been living my life. I have neighbors around me, and I don't associate with them. They drink and drug, and I don't. So I choose to stay out of that chaos because I've been in that chaos. I lived it. I mean, I lived it for 24 years.
So how does
Yes,
that show up
pardon.
as
Huh?
unfair? How does that show up as unfairness?
Yeah, how is that being unfair to your neighbors?
Because I'm withholding love from them
Okay.
when I'm a very loving, caring person.
Except in the case of your neighbors, you're a superior person. You're better than they are.
I can see that I'm coming off like that, yes. But I'm not better than. But
Yeah,
yet
but
I
that's how
feel
you're
I
showing up.
was. I mean, I don't know, because I know I'm no better than anybody in this world.
So you're
Want to
with
go higher
love.
though.
You're withholding love because if you saw them, as the perfect child of God that they are, then you wouldn't be doing that. You're withholding love because of your judgments that, basically you're better than they are.
Well, I'm not better than they are. I just
That-
choose a different way of living. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. We have two different ways of living, and what they're living, it doesn't work for my life. However, I'm trying to get through what I've created in my own life to be able to release the abuse around me and have more of a healthy atmosphere.
Yeah, so one of the things we're talking about also here that Lisa's, sort of hinting at is we can understand things intellectually, but there's a missing piece if we don't make the emotional connection to it. In other words, I can understand some concepts, but if I'm lagging in terms of my emotional piece, the shift is going to be very limited as an intellectual process. I've got to connect with emotion. So how does that work? That works with, I've got not worthy, and I've got to make sure that I work my way through the emotional piece of that. Remember, over here, we're talking about that line of pain, and that my conscious mind is over here, my subconscious mind with the false belief is over here. We have to go through some of that pain. And usually we need some guidance. It's not, most of the time we can't sit at home on our couch and cry our way through this. We need some sort of therapeutic or coaching guidance to get to the other side of this and work our way through this in a way that's valuable. But just know that understanding some things, so Lisa said, she understands she's not better than other people, and fair, that's a great point, but there might be some part of her that still is acting that way. And that's sort of what you said, like, I know that I'm not, but there's moments when I feel that way. So, I just want to bring that point up, that we just got to be careful that sometimes we think I understand it and therefore things should change for me. I understand that concept. Things should change for me now. And the reason it doesn't change is because there's an emotional piece that hasn't been worked through. Now, I'm assuming that certainly is a common experience for me. Like, I feel like, geez, I've known this for forever and it doesn't seem to change for me. So what's going on? And the problem is I haven't worked through the emotional part of that. I assume that's other people's experiences as well. Yes.
I was going to say, Lisa, I appreciate you like bringing this up yourself, because this is really such a basic, Chris, you talked about like fundamental foundational topics that we always circle back to, but this is one of them, and it completely relates to me too. So I appreciate Lisa bringing up her stuff, because I very regularly think, well, they haven't done the work yet, so that's just where they are. So, but it's me thinking, it really is me thinking I'm better. Like, I withhold my love from certain people because unfortunately thinking I'm better than them. It's just, I haven't looked at it like that for a long time. The reminder tonight has been a great reminder. Like, I guess I do that in my own life with people who haven't ever gone to therapy, come to any of these courses before, explored so it's a judgment that I do, I guess this really resonates with me. So
yeah, and some of the teachers. Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
That judgment is like unfair treatment.
It is, and it's withholding love. Like, it's a way of me withholding my love too.
And superiority is very common.
It is, but we also, our brains are so good at making us like rationalize that it's not superiority. Like, that's why I'm saying this is a great reminder for me, because I haven't thought of it that way for a very long time, what I'm doing,
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that out. Yeah.
Just having judgments like that, well, they haven't done the work. They haven't done stuff like that. That's superiority talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing, as I think about that, Course in Miracles lessons, almost all of them, I don't know about almost all of them, but lots of them, if not almost all of them, have this process of whatever I'm doing for myself, I do for the other person as well. So it talks about recognizing I'm a spiritual being. Like today's lesson I'm working on is I am a spirit. And so, but I'm also supposed to acknowledge that about everybody else. So, it sort of levels the playing field. Like, I'm a spirit and they're a spirit. We're all equal. or, I'm a perfect child of God, but they are too. So I appreciate that aspect of what the course is doing with respect to what we're talking about. It sort of equalizes things. And one of the things the course says is recognizing that we're all going to get there, and some people are just farther along in the process, but it doesn't mean that they're less than or more than anybody else. We're all just working the same process. We're just at different points in the process. And there's no need to minimize. So, it's all stuff that you guys are talking about and working on, letting go of those judgments that someone somehow is less than me because they're not doing what I'm doing. And so, yeah, that's a whole thing. So appreciate you guys bringing that out. All right, I'm going to go back to my screen share here.
And the biggest unfairness that I can see in my own life was between me and my son's father, Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm still dealing with that. Because how fair is it for him to have all this money and I sit here and I struggle to make ends meet, and I have to pay support that they're holding me from 5+ years ago, and I had an opportunity to change it, and I didn't want to step back into that realm because I didn't want to play in that field no more. So I've been just managing to get the money, but it's taking a on me and with what I'm trying to do in my life moving forward. So yeah, there's a level of unfairness in my life.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but this is what occurs to me, which is if you can catch yourself like getting that you're being judgmental and recognizing unfairness from externally, stop yourself and say, this is just a reflection of the unfairness with which I treat myself. And so then,
Right.
then you bring it back to you, and then you start to say, how am I unfair to myself? Because it's the unfairness to yourself that is creating the unfairness externally. So it's sort of like when we talk about the not worthy belief and we say, I'm recognizing all this not worthy stuff that's going on around me, but it's really my not worthy belief. The same thing goes for this. If you're in a situation where you're seeing unfairness, one of the ways to sort of turn the tables on that is to say, I've got what unfair, how am I treating myself unfairly? And probably I'm judging myself. I'm not extending love to myself. I'm putting myself down. And if I can catch myself doing those things and stop doing them, then the external stuff will start to clear up as well. That's sort of what that reading that I read in the beginning was. As you focus on peace of mind, there'll be more peace in your life. But we tend to focus, when you focus on unfairness, then there's unfairness in your life. And again, what do we focus on the most? We focus on ourselves the most. So when we have the feeling inside of us, we're focused on that feeling inside of us, and then we create it outside of us. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. But the thing is I can catch it for somebody, but when it comes to it's more challenging for me. But yet I can see it.
For sure. Yeah.
100%. It's always more challenging to catch your own crap. And it's always, I've said this for years, it's always easier to catch someone else's crap, to see someone else's crap. And that's why I say, doing some therapeutic process with someone is helpful, because when we have it rolling around just inside of our mind, it's very unlikely that we're going to untangle the web. Okay, we need to be bouncing things off of someone who can give us some reasonable feedback, because
I have a hard time trusting people with my emotions.
So
that's a counteracting defense mechanism with me.
Sure.
Because I'm going to get hurt again. And and I go to trust somebody and they're going to hurt me again. And I've been playing this advocate for many, 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 many years. That's the way I live my life. That's why I process through my own stuff. But then sometimes I'm not seeing clearly.
Yeah. So
let's resolve the unfairness in your treatment of others and yourself.
Yeah. Start.
Say that again.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Please.
What, you want me to repeat it?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Oh, I said resolve the unfairness with which you treat others and yourself.
And of course, that starts with seeing how you treat yourself unfairly and making different choices in your mind. But so as we go through this mentoring steps, Lisa's sort of talking about what her upset is, the feelings associated with that, and why do you feel this way? Because I feel like things are unfair and I'm being treated unfairly. One of the places you can go with this, and you'll hear us ask this question sometimes when we're mentoring someone or processing someone, is, when have you felt this way in the past? And you can sort of get some idea of where it was fostered in your childhood, or where you created more of it in your childhood, and then it became this process that was ongoing for you. But let's see what else we have to say. Oh,
Well, I know exactly where it's at with my past, because it goes back to my mom and my dad not being supportive. But then I have parents that are not supporting themselves either.
yeah. So if we take Lisa's not worthy belief, or anyone's not worthy belief, you can ask, is it true? And people feel like they can come up with the evidence. Yeah, of course I'm not worthy. Look what happens. I got thrown out of school. My husband or my wife left me. My kids don't talk to me. So of course it's true. But what we're asking is, on a core level, is it really true that you are not worthy of of love or whatever it is? Is that true? Even though you've got this evidence that shows that you've been treated that way, or you think you've been treated that way, is it true that you're not worthy? And if you're not worthy, what are you not worthy of? And what makes you not worthy versus somebody else? And we tend to look at the external evidence for that kind of thing. This is one of the 4 questions you can ask. Can you know that it is true? So this is doubling down on that first question. In other words, is it true? Can you know that it's true? Can you know that you're not worthy? And most people, if they're being fair to themselves, we're using that unfair. If you're being fair to yourself, like, no, I can't really know that that is true. And one of the reasons you can get there is when you ask that question and you start to look at how you were raised, and you start to see some of the beliefs that were shared with you by your parents, or that were grown in your life. You start to recognize this is just a thought. Not worthy is simply a thought. So it has no concrete reality. And then you can ask them, how do you react with that thought? And then the next question, which is a great question, is, who would you be without the thought? And this is, again, encouraging people. This is strengthening the motivation for change. How do you react with that thought? Who would you be without that thought? And so, how badly do you want to get away from all this stuff? And that's how badly you really want, how badly you want to get away from it will dictate how hard you'll work at it, and how often you'll ignore it. In other words, ignore the process, ignore the idea of getting to figure this out and making a different choice. You really were inundated with outer directed information and understanding constantly. So this is you're sort of swimming upstream, in the sense when you're trying to focus on positive stuff in your life and what's good in your life, so you can create more of that, and positive and good stuff, good thoughts about yourself internally. It's sometimes swimming upstream because we're inundated again with so much outer directed information. Okay. But if you want to counteract those false beliefs, you have to make this the mission in your life, that I want peace of mind. And if I want peace of mind, I need to unearth the false beliefs that I have that create distraught and dis-ease in me. Does that make sense? And it really, again, if someone just became, I'm not gonna get into this trust piece. If someone just
Go back to that slide, Chris.
with the 4 questions,
Yes,
there you go.
I want to rip on that for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So these 4 questions are part of Byron Katie's 4-step process called the work,
Right.
which is really ironic, because the most cogent part of this 4-step process is the 5th step, which she calls the turnaround. And that's what we were talking about before. How are you unfair with others? How are you unfair with yourself? That's the turnaround.
Yeah.
Step 5 in the 4th-step process of going through on being treated unfairly.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Bruce. Yeah, well, I'll have to add that bullet in. So there was a point I was going to make. So it really has to become a mission in your life to become a peaceful person. The peace has to be the preeminent goal in your life, is peace of mind. And then that sort of starts to trump things in terms of, do I want to discuss this with this person because I know it's not going to go well and it's not going to create peace of mind for me? Do I want to pursue this? Do I want to pursue that? It really shifts how you think about things and where your mind goes when that becomes the priority. My priority is peace of mind. And one of the big things, and we really haven't talked about this much in recent weekends, is being right. And we say right versus being happy, but I'll say right versus peace of mind. PEAC, peace of mind. So most people will say that they want peace of mind, but they will behave in a way that really what they're interested in is being right. And this is what you have to start to catch yourself. Like, how important is it for me to debate this with this person? How important is it for me to make my point and make sure that they realize that I'm right and they're wrong? Some of those kind of things. This is one of the most basic ways that you can choose. And this also, by the way, is loosening the ego, because the ego is very invested in being right. And when you let go of that need, you're lessening the ego's hold on your mind. You're choosing to walk away from the ego more when you make this choice, okay? And the ego mind, or we could call the matrix mind. The matrix, or the ego, is very invested in being right. And so when I'm having to be right about things, I'm investing in the matrix or the ego. When I consciously make a choice in a moment, like someone says something to me that's just outrageous and they're completely wrong, and especially if it's about me, and I can just say, I have no need to make a point to tell them that they're right. I'm interested in peace of mind, and that's what brings me my peace of mind in this moment. So that's one of the other big pieces of this process. And one of the pieces you'll see in the world is people are very invested again in being right. And if you can make a choice against that or not make that choice, you're, generally speaking, making a choice for peace of mind. So any questions, comments, concerns about all that? It's a lot of information. And I'm going to stop the recording.